The story begins with Greg being called into the boss's office. The secretary warns that the boss has stepped out and asks Greg to wait inside. Greg sits down, but when the boss returns and announces Greg's firing, he acts like he doesn't hear it. As the boss leans in to check if Greg is okay, Greg suddenly stands up and shoves him. The boss falls, hits his head, and dies instantly. A panicked Greg hides the body behind a curtain, and the secretary who enters thinks the boss hasn't arrived yet. Greg leaves, saying he'll return later. He goes to a bar across from the office and orders a drink. Suddenly, a woman sitting at a table starts flirting with him. She calls him real and shows off her telekinetic abilities. She knows what he's done because she's the one who created this world and its unintended consequences. She asks Greg to go to the restroom and get her boyfriend's yellow crystals, which belong to her. In exchange, she promises to get rid of the murder charges. Greg goes to the restroom, finds the unconscious boyfriend, and takes an amulet with yellow crystals from his hand. The woman had said these crystals could control this artificial world. After doing what she asked, the woman takes Greg's hands and explains that the world is just light reflected off human neurons. It's flexible and can be changed. Meanwhile, the boss's body in the office starts to move, reaches to open the window, and falls out onto the street right in front of a group of office workers. Greg rushes to the scene, and everyone sees him coming from the bar, so no suspicion falls on him. The woman leads Greg away since it's clear he wasn't involved. Greg wants to return for his wallet with all his documents and money, but the woman urges him to forget it and talks him into selling his phone at a pawn shop for next to nothing. On TV, the news reports the police are investigating a possible murder, but the woman offers Greg to stay with her in a tent city, under a bridge where they have electricity and a silent TV. On TV, Greg learns the boss's death is ruled an accident, meaning he's free. But he has nowhere to go since he was living in a hotel and left his key and documents in the office. The woman invites him to stay and teaches him to control the world with telekinesis. Greg enjoys this, telling her about his dream home, which he always sketches. He shows her the drawings, and she realizes he's drawn her, telling him that's their real life. In the real world, they are a couple, though he has forgotten her name, Isabel. Meanwhile, Greg's daughter Emily goes to her brother Arthur. She asks for his help finding their father, but Arthur hesitates to reconnect with a dad who was too busy with work and neglected his children. Meanwhile, Greg and Isabel arrive at a roller rink, and after taking yellow crystals, they have a great time. Isabel insists the people around them aren't real, so she suggests knocking them down. Greg is reluctant at first, but then starts shoving people with his mind. They find it hilarious, and the couple amuses themselves until they grow bored. On their way out, they linger, watching the police arrive. They then teleport into a police car and are taken to the station, where they keep having fun. They leave once the game loses its appeal. Meanwhile, Emily checks nearby hotels, hoping to find her father, with no luck. Later, Isabel suggests grabbing food and asks Greg to order while she steps away. Greg enters the cafe and sees Isabel stopping a car. She gets in and drives off. He leaves without eating, unaware his son is there, watching everything. Later, the bartender serves him expired food, mistaking him for a homeless man. Isabel returns and proposes visiting Kendo, a real person who synthesizes crystals. Near his house, the couple splits up. Isabel goes inside while Greg waits outside, where his daughter Emily finds him. She begs him to come with her, but he refuses, insisting on waiting for Isabel. Emily forgives him for missing her graduation and hands him a photo with her home number. After she leaves, Isabel returns and demands Greg forget about his daughter, saying she isn't real. They argue, but a local troublemaker interrupts. Greg asks for a yellow crystal and uses telekinesis to flip the guy's car. In the morning, Greg wakes up in the tent camp, but Isabel is gone. After looking for her, he finds his daughter's photo with a phone number and heads to the nearest payphone. No one picks up and Greg returns, only to face Isabel's frustration. She was scared she'd lost him. Emily isn't real, she's a simulation. But Greg can't believe it, and since Isabel offers no proof, she pulls out special blue crystals. They are supposed to take 10 each, but there are only 16 in total. Isabel reassures him, and herself, saying it'll be enough, loads the crystals into a device, and hands it to Greg. It's time to leave the simulation. Greg takes a deep breath and finds himself in a room where people sit in chairs, hooked up to a central computer with breathing tubes. An assistant calls Isabel Dr. Clemens and asks if she's all right. She complains that Greg got too attached to the generated personality, forcing them to exit early. At least Kendo helped find the blue crystals. Isabel points to a guy still in the simulation, someone she met in that world. She tells them to disconnect Whitlow, and the man rushes over to Greg. Greg starts asking questions and learns Emily was just an imitation too. They step outside, and Greg is stunned by the scenery. Beautiful people and strange, translucent figures are everywhere. Isabel calls them telepresence. Turns out, people can now project their images remotely, enjoying interaction without leaving home. Isabel leads Greg to the waterfront, and he stares in awe, wondering why he doesn't remember any of this. She assures him memory loss happens and will come back soon. She shows him their home. Greg realizes he had always been drawing the real world. Meanwhile, Emily keeps searching for her father in the simulation while he relaxes, enjoying dinner and his real wife's company. That night, Isabel admits she was reckless. Leaving the simulation without enough blue return crystals caused his memory loss. The real world used to be awful, filled with pollution and poverty, but automation, synthetic biology, and asteroid mining fixed everything. She remembers his invention, a thought visualizer, and brings out the device's screen, which draws whatever someone imagines. Greg calls out objects and they immediately appear in the drawings. With his help, Isabel explains how synthetic biology solved all ecological problems, and asteroid mining brought financial prosperity to the world. Every person gets $500,000 a year for free. All the boring and tedious work is done by robots. People now have freedom and time to pursue their interests. Earth has become safe and prosperous, but people take a good life for granted. That's why she invented the brain box, to compare the good with the bad and appreciate achievements. Greg begs his wife to stay there for one more day, which they spend swimming in the sea and relaxing on a yacht. In the evening, they go to the city where a scientist worried about Isabel's research approaches Greg and asks him to watch her. The next morning, Isabel asks Greg to return to the brain box to finish her research, but he refuses, arguing she already has enough data and doesn't want to go back to that world. He agrees to give her a public interview instead. In the evening, a Brainbox presentation is organized. The host talks about Isabel, who came up with the idea of simulating bad worlds so people can compare life there and here. Isabel calls Greg to the stage to compare his answers before and after visiting the Brainbox world. It turns out he was an unbearable grump and cynic, displeased with everything. The new Greg is happy with everything, but suddenly during the interview, he sees Emily appearing in the hall and freezes. The girl disappears, and Greg thanks Isabel. Later, a queue forms of people wanting to talk to the genius Isabel, while Greg spots the translucent Emily again and runs after her. She reminds him that he has a daughter and son who love him. Greg tells her she's not real. Then the daughter recalls sweet details from her childhood, asking her father to choose the world he wants to stay in. Meanwhile, chaos breaks out below. Isabel is caught in the center, pushed and pulled in different directions. Realizing something went wrong, she calls for Greg, and Emily disappears. The man takes a yellow crystal and parts the crowd with a wave of his hands. Isabel is shocked. These powers shouldn't work in the real world. Nonetheless, all hell breaks loose around them, intertwining realities of different worlds. The couple rushes to the laboratory. Apparently, by taking an incomplete dose of blue crystals, they somehow pulled part of the simulation into the real world. They need to fix this urgently, but the blue crystals exist only in that world. They settle into the chairs and end up back in the simulation. Isabel calls Greg to find Kendo and takes him to a bar across from his former office. To his surprise, he sees his former colleagues. Even the boss who fell from the window is alive. Greg demands answers, but Isabel pulls him away, reminding him that everything around is a fake world. The couple mugs a man, taking his car and money since they need to pay for the blue crystals in this world. They drive to Kendo's laboratory. Kendo agrees to give them the crystals, but he makes a suspicious move towards his belt, prompting Isabel to shoot him. It turns out Kendo had no weapon, but Isabel is sure he's fine in the real world. She finds a packet of blue crystals on his body, and the couple escapes, especially as the police storm the building. The police chase them. Emily runs to her brother because she got word about their father's sighting. Together, they head to the tent camp. The police surround the camp, demanding the criminals come out. Isabel counts the crystals, and there are far too few. Only one dose remains to return home. Isabel charges a special device and gives it to Greg. Then he proposes killing himself to return to reality, but Isabel isn't sure it will work. She cries in helplessness. After all, she created all this. Then Greg suddenly admits that this world isn't bad either. He has children here. At that moment, Emily runs out onto the bridge and yells down to her father, begging him to surrender and stay alive. Greg asks to be left here. Isabel steps out to the center, distracting the police. And after making sure Greg has slipped past the camp's perimeter, she takes the crystals. The man flees, drowning in the noise of passing cars. He goes to a rehabilitation clinic for people like him, struggling with addiction. He tells them about a girl who calls him father, and he believes her. Sometime later, Greg comes to a park where Emily is sitting on a bench. She is glad that her father beat his addiction and admits that she loves him. This is where the film ends. People often try to escape from their problems, which weigh heavily on them. They often imagine another life where happiness and peace reign, but one should not forget that every person shapes their own inner world, and only they can decide which one